Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Have you go, we'll add you. Well, we don't, it's just a second, Senator. I'm sorry, Representative Walker, that the system doesn't work that way in here. We had no idea, but we will, got you on the list now. I'll get you next.
Some of the things that we've talked about and some personal experience of legislators that they have seen with their constituents or their own family members. One of the things that I see that seems to be a big problem is if reunification is more important than the child's welfare. Reunification with a bad parent. We've seen, for instance, in a case, and Senator Gray and I have talked, I tried not to talk about parts of the case because it's probably still ongoing, but when a child gets hurt in the visitation care with the parents over and over, but it seems to be real healthy outside of that care, we have a problem. I think that's an area that we need to look. What are the rules of reunification? Before that child is, I think that's an area that I would like for us to see, to go over. It doesn't have to be this minute, but I think that's a problem. What are the rules of reunification? Is there a specific set guidelines, or is there a lot of play in there? So I'd like to know what that law says, and then I'd like to know what DHS does. Then, when we look at the best interest of the child, the day you take away that judge's right to hear that individual case with information presented based on all areas of investigation, that judge sits and listens to everything. He's not one piece of it, the pie. He listens to all parts of the dynamics, and judges rule against DHS. So I can't always say DHS has the best interest of the child, but I think the judge sitting there does have. And that's very important to me. And I see your face, Ms. McGee. There might be one or two judges, but this is not the whole bucket. Those judges care about those children based upon law and what they need to do. If they didn't, they wouldn't give them guardianships to the parents or the grandparents, bypassing DHS. That's important to look at. Very important. So never take away the best interest of the child away from a judge, to look at the whole situation, not just what DHS presents. That child is going before that judge, hopefully, to get protected. That's my concern, and I don't ever want that removed from a judge. When we look at whether you would do a guardianship, I can tell you right now, if I had to have my child, I would go straight to a judge and ask for guardianship before I would ever go through DHS if I had the opportunity, and I would risk going to jail to protect it. It's worth the risk for the child. We know right from wrong. Those that are willing to go to jail to protect that child, I guarantee if those people had known they could have gone a different route, they probably would have done it.
Absolutely.
So I look at the decisions. When I hear this about the judges, I wish judges were here today so that they could say what they have to deal with in best interest of the child. And I say this to the legislators. Be very cautious about taking that right away from a judge to hear the whole case, not a piece of the pie, or we'd have all of our kids going through DHS instead of going through straight to wherever they need to go for the best help. I'd like to know that of the 14% that we're doing placement, I think 14% is accurate. Am I correct, Ms. Blucher? That was mentioned, success rate in Arkansas, where other states around us, many in the average national is 29% in placement of children to the families. Is that correct?
We're actually up to 22.2.
Okay, so based on the information that was given, though, that we're working off of, the report was at 14%. We have increased. I would say that that 22% is still horrible if we have families that truly want to take care of those children. And I would love to see DHS figure out what they can do based on the information that we're questioning, how we are questioning, seeing the problems that we deal with as legislators when those families' lives are absolutely ripped apart when they're good parents, or would have been good parents had they been allowed to as family members. But even yours and I conversation on that one issue, you did not want that child with the family. One of the things that was said, well, they're interfering with reunification. Really? They're trying to get their family in a home. Those children are on drugs. So guess what? They're not staying in that home. They're bouncing around. The parents do their job, but yet they're punished because now they can't be the parent to the grandchild because somehow they got involved in the real parents aren't doing their job and they want to protect the child and be its grandparent or its parent from here on out. That's a problem, and if that's not a law within your
Senator, you have a
agency.
question?
Yes. That is the question that I'm getting to now. I'd like to know that as well on that circumstance. How many children, do you have documentation about why they were moved that would tell us how many were removed because of that conflict right there? When parents have to want to take care of the child and are willing, but yet they've been removed from the home because, all of a sudden they can't do both because if they do, they're punished. We've seen it in this gentleman's case. These people that I'm talking about, that was their problem, you said. Oh, well, they're interfering. No, they're hurting the child. They can't help their children anymore. They want the children safe. What documentation do we have to say we might could change some rules so that there's not a punishment to the grandparent or the other family member to go ahead and take that child and protect it, regardless of their efforts to try to help their adult children?
I think it goes to the question that Representative Gates, I mean, I don't have a number. I mean, I think that's, something that we'll have to look into to know how many that would be. I don't have an answer for you on that, but we will look into that.
Thank you. I think it helps us when we create law. I mean, when we draft that, it will help us if we have to create a law, to do that. Thank you so much, Ms. Booker.